who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means, what an ending means.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavine, it does. They need me.
Welcome to End of Dragons Daily 19. This is the first edition to release early over on Patreon. We'll see how this experiment goes. For everyone, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about dailies. The footage in the background will probably be a little bit more of what you saw yesterday, which is the Stone Summit character dwarf that I've made. In the most recent patch, you can get an infusion that turns you to stone like the dwarves. You can use a mini tonic to make a Norn shrink down. You can use the new Stone Summer armor. I feel like ArenaNet have slowly been filtering this in throughout the saga, and I'm thrilled. So I need to figure out how to make it look good, and there'll probably just be a lot of faffing about more with that. In any case, we're looking at the daily system today, and I'm kind of nervous about this part because I think that the idea of revamping a daily system is really important. Now, make no mistake, there's absolutely no hint from the devs that this will come in the expansion. It's just something that, as we said on a previous part, would make sense for this era of the game. If we take the stance that ArenaNet are going with Guild Wars 2 super long term, they have to start looking at some of these core systems. Dailies are one of them. And yeah, I think that they are probably the most powerful tool that the studio has at their disposal to really revitalize the game. You know, they're sitting on so many aspects of the MMO that players aren't engaging with or interacting with, and dailies can do that. They can drive people around. And so the complicated side of it, though, is that there is a duality to dailies. For everyone participating in the discussion on this series and enthusiastic about the game that sees the value here, I think there are a lot more people who kind of cringe at the idea of dailies and don't like them. So you have to be very careful about how you implement them. Some would say that the current sloppy or hand-wavy mess that is the current dailies in Guild Wars 2 is a good thing, because you don't want to focus on them much. I actually remember several years ago, and I don't remember the identity of this person, but there was quite a big YouTuber who came over to try Guild Wars 2, as very rarely occurs. And he did like a vlog where he was running around, I believe it was in the plains of Ashford, talking about his early experiences of the game, how much he liked it, blah, blah, blah. But then he'd learned there were dailies, and he did this big rant about how dailies suck, and it was because of his experience with them in other MMOs, I think specifically World of Warcraft. Now that I've said that out loud, it's going to automatically tag this video on YouTube as a WoW video. And, you know, there's just a lot of discussion about dailies that turns people off. So I'm wondering where the discussion will go here. I want to be a bit careful. My brain's actually super muddied because there's so much we can say, and I'm like for a lot of it and against a lot of it at the same time. Let's see what we have. Also, random other little comment here from the user Tage Cristiano, who simply said, all this talking about the Zaician got me thinking, does Cantha even know Balthazar is dead? Or even that 3 Elder Dragons got the axe too? The Zaician are such a funny faction because they are very, very close to the Battle Isles and therefore the Canthans, but also Balthazar, and we saw them in the desert and they kind of have been used. So I don't really know whether that faction in particular will get a lot of the spotlight in the next expansion. And yes, there is this question like, how much information's been relayed down there? That's one of the exciting aspects of the Canthan isolationism. How much they've developed and what they know that we don't. But also the reverse. People don't think about that enough. But what do we know that they don't? They could easily cop out and have them completely informed because of magic or Kunavang or whatever. We'll see soon enough, I think. Right, let's get over into the dailies. Nice big wall of text here from the user Zigator ERM. Says, I feel like they could rework dailies using existing systems into a fairly good reputation system. Make the reputation system like reward tracks in World vs. World and PvP. I was thinking to start, you could have one reward track for each region, so Ascalon, Kryta, or Path of Fire, etc. A track would be much longer than a World vs. World and PvP track, and the rewards for each track would be unique armors, weapons, gliders, mount skins, and a title based on the region of the world. Dailies would be given from a random existing NPC on each map, with a small collection with objectives based on the NPC that gave you the collection that day. For example, an NPC in Nightguard Beach in Harathi Hinterland stands will give objectives to give crafted food to refugees, kill 50 centaurs, and help guard Muldoon make his rounds. Completing these objectives would increase your reward track for that specific region, as well as give you gold and a spirit shard. There would be a daily collection on each map, and the NPC giving the collection would change each day. They could also use the token system from Drizzlewood to gain a buff to grant reward track points to specific regions when you complete events or activities. And if you want to drag the mastery system in, you could have racial mastery points that are rewarded from dailies that allow you to learn racial skills from other races, then balance them with current skills, and we could have more skills to play with. I forget where the community stands on racial skills, but I saw a level 32 Norn player using wolf form, and it brought me back to the old days when I loved using them, and a shape-shifted wolf Asura would be fairly awesome, smiley face. There's so much to say here. The first thing that I would really caution everyone against, now I like this comment, I've picked this comment because a lot of people do this, I do this sometimes as well, is you put on like your, oh, I'm going to be a developer hat, and you end up with all this inspiration, because inspiration's easy, ideas are easy, and it all comes flowing out. And I think you've got to be really careful. This is too much, right? Like, they're not going to be able to go this far. They have to be efficient, they have to be clever, and they have to be able to make small changes that have big impact. The idea of all this stuff with the racial skills and bring, you know, these are other ideas. They're separate things. They're not about the daily system. You want to keep any idea or any, like, solution to a problem in the game, I think, laser focused. So I think that's pretty much irrelevant to me. Even though I like the sound of it, it's pretty much irrelevant. But even going back to this earlier stuff as well, like having unique NPCs that they add on each map that do all this stuff for you, you're not going to see that either, I don't think. I think whatever a daily system revamp would look like would continue to use the user interface as the driver of getting people around. I don't think you'll see, you know, quests, and there's a lot of suggestions. We've got more comments we'll see coming up where I think my response is going to be fairly similar. However, just back to the core idea of a reward track, or even multiple reward tracks if you want to do that, I do actually think it's a good idea. A reward track that only progresses as you complete more dailies. It works. It's very similar to the login reward system, except that now you actually kind of have to work for it. The thing with the dailies is, I think, they don't like chain into more dailies the next day. There is no sense of perpetual progress. The only way in which you feel like you're on course for something with dailies at the moment is with the achievement point aspect of it, which we can look at in another comment as well. But not everyone's into achievement points. And the state of the game these days, it feels like more of a chore that achievement points are associated with dailies. Like, it's just a burden to catch up with the veteran users rather than something exciting to go for. So there's a lot we can talk about with AP and stuff. So I think the idea of a reward track kind of works. The only way to progress it is by doing the dailies, and you could make it region specific if you like, or you could do any number of things, but that works, and it solves kind of one of the bigger questions I have with the daily system, which comes up with almost any new idea you have with Guild Wars, and that's, okay, why do the players want to do it? What are you going to reward them with? What's the shiny? And you're saying mount skins. I think that's huge. People would love that. You're saying glider skins. But even when we get down to some of your other ideas, like just giving people unique armor and weapons, I don't know whether that's enough. Really, I don't. I mean, a lot of people are living in that world right now, you know, in terms of the pinnacle weapons and stuff like that. But they earn, like, the Hellfire and the Radiant because of that AP link. But it just doesn't feel like enough. I don't know. I mean, the idea of any new system coming into Guild Wars 2 where the main reward is now a weapon or a piece of armor, again, in the context of all the other skins I've already got and how insanely flashy Black Lion stuff is, I think it's doomed to fail. They need to look elsewhere at those rewards. But a delivery device being a reward track, it's pretty cool, I have to say. I like it. Next, we have Nermin Karisic, who says, I'd really like to have a daily system back where we can get currencies like Zaitian coins and spend them on bags or upgrading bags, keys for skins, special weapons and so on. Something for long and short-term usage. Now, bags I never would have thought of, but this is actually a really good idea because, as you say, it has that long-term use. I think infusions fall into this too. I talked a little bit in that legendary video about the idea of legendary infusions coming into the game. I think that's really good for the economy because it kind of doesn't end. A legendary weapon ends and then it's not, you know, all the stuff for it is just gone. But with infusions, people, in theory, will constantly want more and more and more of them. There's so many characters and so many slots you can fill up. Same with bags. Now, if the idea was I did enough dailies in the row and I unlocked a new inventory slot, I would totally be on board with that. Like, imagine they give you one new bag slot and there's like a daily bag that goes in it. And when you first acquire the daily bag, it only has 5 slots. But you do enough dailies, and now it's permanently expanded to 6. And now it's expanded to 7 and 8. And you can have, you know, a long time before you max it out. And then when you have finally maxed it out, cool, maybe now you do it on another character, right? You get your daily bag going on another character. That works to me, and I know it's just like a little bit of quality of life. It's maybe not that exciting to people, but I think it's something budgetary that the studio could put in there, and then pad it out with these other ideas. Another thing I want to say, and I've noticed this a lot from playing like Fallout 76, and some other daily-oriented games, I think a lot of other studios are much more comfortable giving away their premium currencies when it comes to login rewards / daily systems. And Guild Wars just doesn't. Again, through the achievement point link, they sort of do. You do get gems as you build AP, and doing dailies is a way to get AP, but it's not enough, I think. You know, I play Fallout 76, and they do give me quite a lot of stuff that I can buy and build for my house that otherwise I'd be buying. If I play Warhammer 2 Vermintide, they're giving me shillings for doing the dailies, which immediately is turning into more cosmetics. I wonder if ArenaNet can loosen up a bit on that. That might not be their decision. It might be an NCSoft thing, though, and we don't really know what control there is at that point. But I think that's something as well, reward-wise, that would be a big solution. Next, we have MA, who says, will they look into re-implementing monthlies alongside dailies? In my opinion, this will help pad out the amount of stuff that a player can do. I miss those. Personally, I really like this idea. I think that monthlies offered something massive. I think weeklies do also. The funny thing with weeklies is they're kind of already in the game, right? Guild stuff is a weekly system. Raiding is a weekly system. The World versus World Diamond Chest is a weekly system, you know, after reset. I think they can grab these together, put them into a formalized setup, and then, you know, maybe encourage people with some additional objectives if they want to go for them. And then monthlies too. The thing that's compelling most about the whole idea of reworking dailies is to get people into areas of the game that are currently underserved. And where monthlies are especially valuable is that some of these things are too much to ask for just to do in a day, especially, or even to do in a week. Like, for example, a monthly that has people do the raid content, or a monthly that has people do 25 fractal islands, right? So be easy mode fractals, or go through all the raids encounters at least once, or the equivalent number of, or go through all the story mode dungeons, or go through all the explorable dungeons. You know, these are bigger goals that you could put into a monthly and won't fit anywhere else. The launch monthlies, I mean, they were okay. They were a little bit low balanced for me. I remember just like 3 days after launch, I had all the original monthly objectives finished, and I thought that was a bit worrying to me and a bit lame, and then obviously they ended up going away. But I'd like to see it come back, and, you know, the UI is weird as well, because you can still mouse over your achievement points, and it tells you how many you got from your monthlies, even though that was only available for a tiny proportion of the game's life now. So being able to bring that UI back, I don't know, I'd like it. The whole consistency angle for me is a big one. JP Knight says, the Obsidian Sanctum needs to become a World versus World daily. It's such a cool and unique jumping puzzle, and the only one with PvP aspects. I miss the times when my guild was spending hours and hours in there fighting anyone trying to get to the chest. Now it's mostly dead, and even the addition of the World versus World guild challenges didn't populate again. So yeah, it is true that with guild missions you can go in there. And it is true, because the guild missions like reset all at the same time, that can create this thing where lots of people are in there at once and you have a real experience. But I mean, you say it's mostly dead. I mean, I feel like it's completely dead. It actually appeared in the footage of one of these videos. I was using the traps and using the boulder avalanche and stuff, these animations I haven't seen for years. I love that place, and it really does only work if there's a population. It pains me to see that so empty. It pains me as much as it saw to see Edge of the Mists that empty. So yes, I think this is perfect, because one of my favorite things about dailies is that it pumps a lot of people at once, so you get that social element, and nowhere thrives more from that than the Obsidian Sanctum. You know what I would want there as well? Not just the objective of getting to the chest at the end, but like killing people with traps and stuff. Like, I want to go to the Obsidian Sanctum and actually stand around triggering the traps to stop competitors climbing up. I think that would be amazing. That's kind of what the Fortune's Veil game type was going to be. And I've never really had the experience. Perhaps ArenaNet are a little bit leery about the Obsidian Sanctum because, truth be told, I'm sure it's actually not that well balanced. But I mean, you have the stealth pools and stuff, and if it was good enough at launch, it should be good now. I really like that area, and I'd love to see it be revitalized during End of Dragons era. Penfold 1992 says daily missions should include strike missions or dragon response missions if they want to promote that content. I would like if the daily missions were not the same for everyone. Complete events means that there's a Zerg smashing all events. Jumping puzzles are just mesmer portals or jumping puzzle cheese. Champions are just another Zerg. It gets a bit redundant. Now, this is really good. This is taking the alternate side of what I just said. I like it when dailies dump a ton of people together, but you do kind of have a point. When the daily objective is a jumping puzzle, it does just mean everybody portals. And what is best with a jumping puzzle, really? Is it when there's a whole Zerg going through it, or just portaling you? Or is it when, on your own time, at a random point in the week, you happen to be doing the Silver Waste jumping puzzle, you're halfway through, and wow, there's another player there, and then you get chatting and talking. Clearly it's the second, right? I mean, that's awesome. So the idea of having everyone having a unique daily kind of does work for that. Because then, yeah, everybody's kind of spread out, and that's really what the MMO needs. The more spread out people are, the more populated and meaningful the whole game feels. It makes me so happy to see random players in areas of the game that I would have considered dead. Really, it does. And Guild Wars 2's got so much in it that just leads to people zerging, that maybe dailies are a great way of going in the other direction. I'm going to actually advocate something of a bit of both here. Maybe some dailies people are given are global and everybody gets it, and maybe some are unique, and maybe jumping puzzles, for example, are never on the globals. You know, maybe global stuff is stuff like dragon response missions and strikes, actual co-op content, instance co-op stuff, fractals, dungeons, all those ideas. And yes, you have a really good point here, if they want to promote that content. Because here in this next question, JJ says, what comes to dailies, I really wish they had daily dungeon achievements. I think it would really help boost population and make people more aware of dungeons. And again, this is like what I said the other day. I feel like because dungeons are in the game and I have a lot of fond memories of dungeons, that therefore the studio should promote them. But sometimes you have to remember the studio might not want to promote them anymore. They've said very clearly that they don't really get how they're coded, and it's frustrating to iron bugs out and stuff. And if you actually go in dungeons nowadays with people remotely competent with the game, they're not that fun, guys, because they're unbalanced now. They've not kept up with the power creep. It's actually not that interesting. I mean, it is, but for us vets and from like a nostalgia and memory kind of standpoint, but, or, you know, maybe when I'm doing a project on YouTube where I want to teach you guys about stuff to do with it. But realistically, I can see why ArenaNet might just not want people in there that much, and they might be happy with the population. It might be lower than it once was, but they might be happy with that. And in that case, you might not see a revamped daily system ever look at dungeons, even though the point of it is to add new value and exploration of stuff that they've already got in the game. You might not see that they do that. I can't really think of any other formats in the same boat as dungeons, to be honest, because you got another problem. If suddenly they're telling everyone to go play dungeons and then there are still bugs and stuff, then it's like they have a duty to resolve those issues too. I don't know, maybe they should have more confidence in their own stuff, but I do want to propose the world where maybe they just don't want you in there. Sora said something I very much agree with. I think the daily system is still too cluttered. I know it was upgraded to have less in it than before, but I still think it's got way too much going on. Frankly, I'm not sure what to suggest to fix it, since I think the entire achievement UI is still way too cluttered. Maybe it needs its own window outside of the hero menu. I agree with that really I think it's, like so much of this game, it's not a hero panel thing. It's not a collection or an achievement of any kind. It's a daily thing. It should have its own panel. They gave the login rewards their own panel, obviously because, you know, metrics showed that was valuable for player retention. Let's do it for the dailies too. They really deserve their own one. And continuing on the topic of them being cluttered, another user said what I think is still the same problem. I think that daily should be more specific missions, even when the X Minor or X Vista, where X is some regional map, are super easy. They're just boring. I love when the daily send you to mini dungeons, jumping puzzles, activities, or world bosses. I'd also implement more specific rewards. That's another topic where everything you do in Guild Wars 2 is converted to gold and then some skins, etc. I think that the new Infusion is Dragon Response Mission only, or in previous episodes some skins for shoulders were only in strike missions, and dailies could have a system like that. Every daily gives you 2 gold and a token that after like 200 you can get something. So yeah, I think the reward track idea sort of has a similar spirit there, but this point that they're too cluttered, and then yes, you've got stuff like look at a Vista. or do some mining. I think to give some real tangible advice, like very precise advice about one of the biggest problems of the daily system, is that interesting objectives are undermined by easy ones. Like when I would regularly PvP, I never did any dailies or was ever encouraged to do anything new with the game, because I was PvPing and I would play one PvP match, and there you go. I've got my AP, I've got my 2 gold, and I would just never think about it, because by doing that little bit in PvP, it's dinged it for any possible objective I might have wanted to do in World vs. World, and might have wanted to do in PvE, so it's over. And if I was in PvE and I really wanted to do my dailies, you're goddamn right, I'll just go over to a Vista. It only takes a second or 2. So this, I think, is clutter. It's not just clutter, it's at the detriment of the full system. I would like to see that stuff removed. I would like to see a little bit more parity. Now, there is another way of doing it too. If you remember when they last reworked the daily system, they did make it so that every specific accomplishment you make has its own little reward on there. They were just never very creative about what those rewards were, and they never pumped them up. So the bespoke rewards you get for doing something more complicated than just finding a Vista is really not enough, because most people are just interested in the overarching daily accomplishment, so they get their 2 gold. So that's where I'd like to see a bit of a balance shift. Maybe actually pump a bit more money into the individual daily objectives and put less emphasis on the overarching reward of having got 3 in a single day. And that way, people will start doing some of the more interesting stuff, because they're going for whatever that exact reward is. And I'll say as well, I never got a single comment about resonating slivers. Alright, resonating slivers all the way up to resonating lodestones, they need to be fixed. ArenaNet has to do something dramatic with that side of the economy. Or could. I mean, they could just leave it all dead if they wanted. But I would really like to see them do that, because that was, again, something that they could have used as a currency for any number of unique items, and they just didn't, you know? And to be very clear, I invested in resonating stuff years ago. I've got stacks of it in the hopes that one day it will mean something. But I'm not saying this in my video because I want to earn money on an investment I once tried. I'm saying it because I really believe that it would benefit the game enormously to actually utilize resonating slivers, and then people are looking at the daily rewards in a whole new way. Again, big bang for minimum effort. You've just got to figure out what you're going to do with them. Finally, we have GJITS, who says dailies and AP. Daily AP limit, if it stays 10 per day, should be increased for all players by maybe 40 per month, maybe 10 per week. This would give weeklies or monthlies feeling as veteran players come back to do dailies as new AP are released, without making newer players feel like they can never catch up, and mathematically they still very much could. There's of course a discussion about using dailies to point players to quality content, which already exists, but thinking back on the old monthlies, having a bunch of players zerging plant slayer mobs was a quality of its own, based on social interactions. So there is this AP discussion, and I would like, I have to be honest, this is not going to be a popular opinion. I would like to see AP come back to dailies, because I haven't cared about it since I hit the cap. And I know so many of you guys listening to this video are not at the cap, so therefore you do not see it as your problem. But I think a lot of you who aren't at the cap never invested in AP in the first place. My perfect vision for Guild Wars 2 is a lot more people care about AP. Maybe they can look at the kind of AP rewards you get. And then, yeah, I would like to see that continues with dailies. What you got to understand about me, guys, is I don't like entropy in the game's design. I don't like things that run out. I don't like the thought that Guild Wars 2, 20 years from now, cannot sustain because so many of its systems have an end date. I don't really like stuff like that. But I do appreciate that you don't want these veterans just running further and further and further away. I think that there's a weird issue with the dailies right now, where, because, how much can I get? 15,000? 10,000? Whatever the number is that I have already because of dailies and monthlies ahead of those new players. That's so much already, and it's such a huge time gate already for any prospective new person that they're put off. So I'm capped from continuing to do dailies in an enthusiastic way so that these new players feel like they can catch up. But they don't feel like they can catch up because the number is too big already. I don't think either side of the coin is being benefited right now. So I'd like to see a look at it, and I would like to see, you know, when you're new at the game, if it's a new account, maybe you get like friggin' 100 AP for doing your first dailies. But then once you pass 20,000 AP or whatever, once you get a certain proportion, now you're getting less. It's like diminishing returns until eventually you're getting like 1 achievement point for every 3 days of dailies. Stuff like that, right? A bit like how they work the luck system, but just keep it going and going and going. I would like to see that I can still progress AP, even if it's at a snail's pace and everyone else is at an accelerated pace to get close to me. I think that would be really, really brilliant. And again, answers the question of why are people doing dailies, because now it feels achievable for the new people, and it still feels like something for those no-lifes at the top, like me, that really want to min-max. Because I'm telling you, I would. If I only got 1 AP from 3 full sets of dailies, I would do it. I would do it if I only had 1 AP from a whole week of dailies. That's what the leaderboard's about, you know, being competitive, because if I'm not doing it, someone else is, and now I'm falling behind or whatever. So, you know, for people that want to engage in that stuff, I'm not saying everyone should, because not everyone will want to, but for those who do, I would like to see a change like that for the daily system. So there's still so much more we could say, guys, but I'm out of time, so I'll have to talk to you more tomorrow about End of Dragons. Let's change the topic. Now, I'm going to propose something here that I had in mind right at the start of the series, and it's this. I want to talk about the Heart of Thorn style versus the Path of Fire style. And specifically what I'm talking about here is in terms of open world and meta events. So, what I want you guys to do in the comments today is make your arguments for why Heart of Thorns was the best. Why the Heart of Thorns format of metas and so on was so much better than POF. That's what I want you to do. We'll talk about it, and then the day after, we'll give everyone else their voice for why POF was the best. Should be fun, right? I hope so anyway. So thanks very much for watching, guys. For people who watch this on YouTube, please remember the next episode is already available over on Patreon. Please do consider supporting me there. It literally funds my life and my ability to make this stuff. You might think it's a bit crazy and dumb and you'd never do it, but it does only take a few seconds to set up. There's a link in the description. Please do consider it. And until next time, guys, take it easy.